if the plan wasn't for The Rock to be at Elimination Chamber. And this is the big one. Here's the podcast. You want the podcast for today? You want the YouTube clip for today? You want the social media clip? The question is, what if? What if Ari didn't make that phone call to The Rock? What if Ari didn't say, hey, Rock, ticket sales for Elimination Chamber are soft. I need you to make an appearance. What would have been the story in the match at WrestleMania 41? Because it wouldn't have been what we saw. It wouldn't have been the story we saw. So, Thunder, what would we have seen at WrestleMania 41 if Ari didn't make that fateful phone call to The Rock and say, please, ticket sales are soft for one show. We need you.
I mean, I honestly think that it would have been still, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Maybe we would have seen a better build-up for this, because I feel like even for this WrestleMania, and this is something that we talk about for weeks, the build-up for like this WrestleMania specifically wasn't as good as it was last year. Not even close. Not even close. So I think you could call the Pope to try to sell tickets and still wouldn't sell tickets the way that they wanted to. I mean, last year it was insanity. It was insanity. And this year it was different. And again, the lacking of the why, the motives for certain things and certain storylines, it was needed and it was never told to the fans. And I think no matter where they're moving, the hardcore fans and the fans that have been making things work, they deserve to get the story. We deserve to get what professional wrestling is like, the whole psychology, the why we're doing certain things, because that's a thing that I feel like in many different companies is missing. They insert stories or they insert people, then there's no follow-up, then they expect the fans to figure it out or to understand it, and it just never happens. That's just me.
I agree with you on every point you made. I don't think the build to this WrestleMania was nearly as good as last year. And I still think we would have gotten a Cena turn, but would it have come later? Would it have been different? Absolutely would have been different, because The Rock said on Pat McAfee that, I didn't want to make it about their souls. But everything you said leading up was about their souls. So, so Tommy, let me ask you, if Rock doesn't make that appearance at Elimination Chamber, that would have greatly affected what we saw at WrestleMania 4. What would we have seen at WrestleMania 41 if we didn't get The Rock at Elimination Chamber?
I feel you would have still had Cena versus Cody Rhodes. I will have stuck to my guns of what, again, I have the pencil. Cody versus Cena, mentor versus student. They could still have cool words against each other, have this different build, maybe even do a tag match and like a miscue punch. And then at the end of the day, John Cena turns at WrestleMania. Cody can still go away, and because he's heartbroken, his mentor kicked him in the nads. You could have still gone the route with Randy Orton. You could have still done all these different things. If you were worried about, the fans were going to turn on Cody or boo Cody, it's the same result.
Yeah.
That happened. So, but you can't say, what would you have done? You have to, of what happened and we're here. That's like, how come, every Buffalo Bill fan, how come that guy, Scott Norwood, just couldn't have kicked that field goal straight? He didn't. He went left.
No. Tommy, I got to jump in here because that analogy is not a good one. Here's why. That would be like if the coach pulled out Scott Norwood and put in another field goal kicker. There's going to be human error.
Right,
human error happens.
Seattle fans will always talk about why didn't they hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch instead of passing it.
That's perfect. That's a perfect analogy, because if you would have ran the ball, which was successful for you the entire year and the entire game, most likely you would have won the Super Bowl. But what did you do? You went against what you normally do. You threw the ball, intercepted, game over, you lost. It's the same thing here. I will say this. with 100% confidence. Cody Rhodes is not as in good of a place as he was before Elimination Chamber. I will say this with 100% confidence. John Cena is not as a good of a place now as he was before Elimination Chamber. I will even go as far as say the perception of the WWE is different. That phone call to The Rock changed the path for a lot of what we're talking about right now. Because maybe if that phone call's not made, I can guarantee you that the ending of WrestleMania 41 would have been better than the end of WrestleMania 41 that we saw on Sunday. I guarantee it.
David, to the argument that Tommy was saying, at the end of the day, are the people on top happy with the amount of money that they made during this WrestleMania weekend? That's the bottom line.
Yes.
They don't give up.
Yes.
Fuck about what you think, what I think, what the fans think, and how they feel. If they're booing Cody, if they're booing John Cena, do they make the money that they want to? Do they get new people to watch the show? Do they get new subscription to Netflix? Are people, buying more merchandise that they did last year? That is the barometer of success that people have now for professional wrestling. Not what we think, is how much money they made.
And Dave, like, you'll hear the numbers of, I guess it was the most viewed or talked about thing on social media, over 1 billion people on something. That's money generated. Those are commercials on your just Instagram alone. It's a whole business, right? I saw nothing but John Cena merch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking people wearing it. I was by T-Mobile earlier in that day and saw everybody walking around wearing John Cena merch. And I was just like, It goes back to where, like, I don't think this heel turn worked. But if you talk about, to what Thunder said, money generated, how could you not say that it worked? Well, because they're cheering him. Cool. Well, we're making a lot of money off of that. It's a different time. I get it. There have been like holes storyline wise with a lot. We've talked about it. At the end of the day, I do a reboot, a reset, and WrestleMania is over. It's now we're moving forward. And we're moving forward. I don't know where they're going to go next WrestleMania, but right now I'm looking at, hey, John Cena, we're cheering. It was the weirdest segment for a long, long time because he literally, outside of saying, I had sex with your mother or girlfriend, was still, or calling people fat, because you can't say that anymore, to get heat. He did everything to try to get heat. And besides saying that, he was still getting cheered up until when he got RKO'd. And the moment that RKO happened, you're like, oh, wait, now we're on to something. And Backlash, St. Louis. And, hey, we're also just announced Petco Park as a PLE, or the Paris show will sell out, the Castle thing. But it's also, okay, well, if our business, and I can't even say their business is soft in the States, but like, if our business is soft in the States, guess what? How much money did we go when we went to the UK? Look at the money that UFC is
obviously the ticket sales were soft in Toronto for Elimination Chamber because Ari made the phone call to bring The Rock in. And you say it's a different time. Okay, it's a different time. But I don't believe that it is. Because again, because you're going to tell me you're making a phone call to bring The Rock in to change the course of WrestleMania because of soft ticket sales for one show? You just explained it's not about ticket sales. Oh, and well, all right. So when the ticket sales for WrestleMania are down, it's not about ticket sales for WrestleMania. It's about how much money you generate. It's about social media and pay-per-view. Well, that wasn't the case for Elimination Chamber because Ari made the phone call to The Rock. The Rock said it because ticket sales were soft.
I mean, I get your argument. Ticket sales well, yes, but again, remember the prices of the tickets. They were much more higher than what they were last year. So you will have to sell less tickets to make the same or even more amount of money. that you did last year. So it didn't really matter. That's my point. Like, things have changed completely. They are figuring some stuff out. Maybe they didn't sell out, but they make probably the same or more money than last year on ticket sales alone because of the price of each ticket. So to your argument, yeah, if you're saying that they made the call to sell more tickets, it didn't make sense for this WrestleMania, right? That's what you're saying? You're saying to me?
Yeah, listen. There's a lot of different directions we can go in with this conversation. Because first of all, I think it's all bullshit. I think you're changing the story for WrestleMania because of 8,000 or 9,000 tickets. Because that's pretty much the difference that it made for having The Rock appear at Elimination Chamber. 8,000 or 9,000 tickets. And we never saw him again after that. Never saw him again. So you changed the whole course, the whole main event story for soft ticket sales. That was the difference of 8,000 or 9,000 tickets at Elimination Chamber. And here's the other thing. Tommy, you just said that the heel turn didn't work. A big reason why the heel turn didn't work was because of The Rock. Who was the real heel at WrestleMania 40? It wasn't Roman Reigns. It was The Rock. Yes or no?
Correct.
All right. And The Rock appeared throughout TV, and he appeared at WrestleMania. The real heel here is The Rock. He's the one that got John Cena, after 20 years of being the biggest babyface maybe in the history of the WWE. He got John Cena to turn heel. And they never gave us an explanation. We never saw The Rock again. We never saw Cena and The Rock shoulder to shoulder after Elimination Chamber. Never. So how are they supposed to boo John Cena when, A, he's on his farewell tour, B, he's going after a 17th world title, and C, he's the face of a generation of wrestling fans. They put Cody in an impossible situation. The only way they could have gotten John Cena booed is if The Rock was there, and he wasn't. So to your point, Tommy, there's 2 or 3 different ways you could have gone at Elimination Chamber. They chose The Rock's way, and it was a failure. How do I know? Because every fan was cheering John Cena, and they were booing Cody Rhodes. But if The Rock decided, hey, Ari, you want me to make an appearance at Elimination Chamber, it's got to make sense. What's the story moving forward for not just me, but for Cody and for John Cena? Well, the story at Elimination Chamber was, I'm going to take your soul. Cody, I'm taking your soul. John Cena sold his soul to me. But then The Rock just said to Pat McAfee, hey, you know what? Forget about that. Let's throw it away. Let's make it about John Cena and Cody. I'm sorry, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't have part 1 of a movie and then in part 2 of the movie completely change the story that was in part 1. Everybody would throw their hands up and say, what the fuck is this? This isn't the sequel of the movie I saw. What am I seeing here? The story's completely different. That's exactly what happened after Elimination Chamber in this build to WrestleMania. Shame on the WWE and shame on The Rock. Because what did you affect at the end of the day? You affected Cody Rhodes and you affected John Cena. The Rock tried to ruin Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, and he may have succeeded at WrestleMania 41. You want to make fun of the Cody Crybabies? The Cody Crybabies, Rock, saved your ass at WrestleMania 40. Saved your ass. You cut us off at the knees. You cut off our balls at WrestleMania 41, and you got what you got. You got what you got, pal. An unsatisfying WrestleMania end that everybody is bitching and complaining about. And you could put any kind of facade or blanket or perfume. You can't put perfume on a pig. No numbers, no metrics, no social media metrics and numbers are going to change the fact that people hated the end of WrestleMania 41. You know why? Because it made no sense. It made no sense. Nobody knew what the fuck they were watching. Nobody cared, and nobody liked it. That's the bottom line.